So I'll shift to the next question, which I want to ask about event reporting technology. And just to recap, when we refer to fourth generation event reporting technology, what are the generations? Well, generation 1 was pen and paper. Generation 2 was Microsoft Excel or Microsoft Access. Generation 3, we started to see some homegrown systems emerge for incident reporting. And then today you see these fourth generation tools, which are web-based, quite sophisticated, have taxonomies within them. And Hal, I'd like to start with you and get your perspective on to what degree has the lack of good tools limited event reporting, and maybe how is that changing today?
Well, let's start with having an event reporting system was a big step. And at first level, reporting in paper, a good thing moving forward, but tremendous barriers to sharing the information with the people who needed to know about it. A lot of these reports ended up in somebody's file drawer, never really getting a pharmacy error that occurred in nursing may not ever come to pharmacy, and vice versa. So those dead ends were deadly. And moving from there to the homegrown systems is a big leap forward. But again, the ease of getting the right information to the right people, and at the same time be compliant with HIPAA. And the privacy protection of that data took another level of sophistication of the systems so that the roles and the privileges of the individuals that this information is being pushed out to can be customized. So somebody who's, for example, involved in let's say, a pharmacy and on an oncology floor, sees all the pharmacy data, but doesn't necessarily, unless his or her role is at that level of privilege, would only see that limited piece of the world, if you will. And that then lets the systems meet the goal of pushing out information rather than people having to pull it, but pushing it out only to those people who have the privilege or the need to know. And I think those are very important issues in the more sophisticated systems. And also tracking, once something is identified and the information is developed further, what's the follow-up? What are the next steps being taken, and do you track that follow-up? It's one thing to say, we dealt with it and we'll do so-and-so, but making sure that what you expect happened in a timely way has actually happened, and if not, that's tracked, and the necessary push forward is part of the system.
Relatively straightforward ideas, but difficult to operationalize in an efficient and a lean way. Good comments, David, on?
Yeah, I want to add to that. I think, one, we talked about earlier that fear of coming forward and reporting. But the other piece is just apathy, where people report and say, look, the system isn't changing. And I was thinking about our comments about the executive leadership being committed to doing this. I think beyond them, I think if you look at the resources we've given healthcare, and you compare aviation or other industries or like nuclear power, and say what amount of resources does a nuclear power operator have to spend time thinking about what it's doing? And I think it's that comment of, if you look at a physician staff at a hospital, even if they're employed physician staff, you have physicians busy spending their time doing. They can file a report, but who's spending the time stepping back and saying, okay, well, we're part of the staff looking at what we're doing, self-assessing, and making the changes that we need to make. And I think, to some extent, we haven't provided healthcare the resources that aviation and nuclear power have been given simply to be introspective. I mean, to hire a doctor and say, you're not going to practice medicine, you're just going to help monitor how we're practicing, and you're going to be a part of that kind of resource we haven't given. I think part of having, you can have all the technology to get those reports in, but you have to act on the reports, and we have to show staff that their report was meaningful. And I think to some extent the risk is we'll collect a lot of data and we won't be able to use the data, or we just won't have the time to use the data. And I think that's one of the things we have to be cautious of.
Yeah, a big turn off in event reporting is putting things in what's perceived to be a black hole. Yeah. That if I'm going to stick my neck out, and particularly even if it's not a punitive environment, my own self-image and my self-image internally and how I'm viewed or perceive myself to be viewed by my peers, I stick my neck out and say something, I expect something good is going to come of it. There's going to be, it's going to lead to actions taken. So the feedback to staff, the feedback to the reporters, that people actually see that change is occurring or the information is useful, is a fundamental, along with trust. The trust and this motivation to continue to report is
that all goes together, right? The culture, the tools to actually make it happen.
And to somehow, I mean, you come back to sort of where we started in terms of the comparisons between the two fields. Somehow it seems to me medicine has got to be able to figure out how to universalize that you can't have a hospital here and a hospital here and a clinic there, et cetera. You know, what's the structure that's going to, I mean, ultimately, obviously, the more data that you can get into the system from everyone, the better off you're going to be. How do you get going down that path? And that, in a sense, that's, I think, the challenge for those administrators that we were talking about earlier, whether regulatory, whatever that means in medicine, state, et cetera, or whether the hospital.
And I think PSOs have offer the promise to do that, to deliver our version of standard gauge railroad as it relates to information and data, but we can't take 19 years. I mean, we just can't afford to do it.